This is one of the videos of Miss Shelly, or sorry, one of the audio recordings with Miss Shelly. That would be Shelly Robinson. And you guys got to hear Mr. Torelli in the last video. You also got to hear Claire Jordan. Obviously, I'm not alone. I'm going to continue speaking out, and I'm going to continue showing the truth. This is systemic abuse, and it's not okay. There are several parts of this where she talks very quietly under her breath. So hopefully it'll catch it. There's also some of the BS with Melissa, but that's not in this one. This is the last visit that I had with her before that situation. We're going to play the visit afterwards as well, because it's the same thing. I say the same things to her. I filled out the housing paperwork, and you guys got to hear Russell verified I filled out the housing paperwork. There's some debate as to the number of them, but they were filled out. And you'll get to hear her in this one right here, and in the one after that, how I'm finally willing to try for housing and so on. Just knock it off.
I was up all night with being frozen, and you know the over by Veltri Insurance by Safeway, and they got that place over there where all the addicts hang out. Well, they beat each other up every night.
Sean, at some point, you know the drill. You've worked for shelter reports, so you know.
I was a volunteer at Boho, which was not a shelter. There was no Boho shelter. What Boho was a group of homeless people that worked together to try to convince some of the churches to let us in. So they had it on rotation during the nights that it was so cold that we'd die. So nearly everybody who started that was a volunteer at the beginning. I wasn't there at the beginning. I started volunteering a few years into it. Also, the place across the street is not a homeless shelter, it's a crack house.
You're just going to have to deal with the evidence.
Yes.
Or not deal with the
Or the lack
Now, I do want to ask, how am I supposed to deal with it? Obviously, I can't call the cops. Obviously, recording them is just going to result in me being harmed. Allowing it to continue allows me to be harmed too, because I can't sleep with this stuff going on. I mean, you got to hear in the last video, you got to hear a really, really loud thump. Sometimes people throw things at me. Sometimes it hits the fence. And you know what I got to do when that happens? Ignore it. Pretend it didn't happen. That's just stupid.
been staying in my
So,
head. My friend's
on
next
that
door.
note, we could, if you're finally willing, start working on your housing.
Well,
Finally willing. Now, this is about a month ago that this recording was made, I think, because she missed two appointments in a row before that situation. So this would have been quite a while before that situation happened. But it was at least 2 months after Russell and I did the paperwork. I'm finally willing to try, she says. The first thing I did in the Tillamook care office is fill out housing paperwork. That's the first thing they had me do. Second thing they had me do. I think it was the second visit to them that I did the housing paperwork. The first time they almost understood that I'd already filled out housing paperwork. Like, I went to TFCC. They say that they're not mandatory reporters and it's not their job to investigate. All they can do is advocate for housing. Same thing with care. Then I find out that They're supposed to investigate these crimes, but they just don't want to. They weren't interested. Any lie that they can tell in order to get paid for doing nothing. Meanwhile, that leaves us out here to be victimized again and again by the same people. It is not okay to make disabled people go live with a bunch of fucking drug addicts. That's not okay. That's not help. Meanwhile, since 2022, no housing. She wants to talk about this fantasy of hers of getting me an apartment with her doing jack shit to help.
I've been working on the housing. I filled out the paperwork, everything that I'm told to do, I do.
Applications with us?
Yeah.
Where are they?
She doesn't remember that I filled out the applications, despite the fact that every single meeting that we had, I reminded her that I had done those things. And what did she do? She wanted to tell me that, well, I'd offer to do it again. She'd tell me that she'd look through the emails. Every time.
I don't know. They should be in my file. We could ask Russell.
You have to bring, oh, okay. Good to know.
You guys.
Every session. Every single session. Like, her memory retention is non-existent. This happened every single session.
Because now, you're officially on my caseload now.
Now, I do want to mention that we didn't have very many sessions. You guys got to see the enormous stack of cards, and the majority of those were missed appointments. She hasn't been helping with any of this stuff. She's pretending to do this stuff. And then every single meeting is exactly the same as the one before. I explained to her that I did the paperwork. I explained to her that me and Russell did it. I offered to do the paperwork again. And then she says, no, I'll check the emails.
Switching you over from not engaged to engaged because you're ready to start working on housing. So
She's going to switch me over from not engaged to engaged because I'm finally ready to start working on housing. I've been working on the housing the whole time. That's what I was working on with Russell. What the hell? This is 2 months after Russell stopped doing this and she started doing it. Literally 2 months later, I'm still having to deal with this insanity.
that changes things. So
Well, I filled out the housing paperwork for the very first time I came in here in 2022.
yeah.
And then when I
September
filled that
13th.
out, I was sent to TFCC, and then at TFCC they wanted me to do that paperwork. Then at Northwest Senior and Disability Services they wanted me to fill out that paperwork. At ODHS they wanted me to fill out that
I'm
paperwork.
talking about strictly
So,
apartment applications.
right, we got 6 of those in.
Okay.
Russell was telling me that there's a new one that you guys are going to be having, but then when the new one that you guys were supposed to be having came in, I was told that it was only for the elderly.
55 and over.
So,
See, I pay attention. It's obvious I've got better memory retention than she does. It's obvious that I'm showing up for the appointments. It's obvious that I know what's going on. It's also obvious because I have more recordings just like this one, just so you know. And I'm going to record those as well because I am sick of this. Every single session she does this. Every single one. Oh, now that you're finally ready to engage in housing. Lady, I filled out the paperwork the first time I came in. And then when I got out of jail 3 years later, almost, I filled out the paperwork again with Russell. And of course, you guys got to see when they brought me what they wanted to call my file. There is literally nothing in it except one post-it note, a police officer's card, and all of my intake forms, which I filled out. What did they actually do? There is no applications in that file for any of the apartments that we filed for. Russell verified that we did file those things, and we're going to hear her again.
I gotta wait 10
You're
years.
young. Too bad you don't have mental health diagnosis.
I have lots of them. I've been diagnosed with ADHD, Rett
Right.
syndrome.
Like, I tell her this stuff every time that I go in there. Yes, I have disabilities. I have diagnosed disabilities. I'm also having to deal with the fact that the people at CARE and the people at TFCC are ignoring my disabilities. And even though none of the people who are trying to claim that I'm delusional actually have the letters behind their name to back it up, the fact is that's still what I have to work with. People who lied in court. That includes care workers, and you see, they don't take the situation with Miss Shelly seriously. We are being victimized because none of these people who are supposed to oversee these SOBs are actually overseeing it.
The Asperger's is the part that I'm supposed to have disability for, but instead they don't actually give it to me for Asperger's, they give it to me for my PTSD diagnosis as well as for there's some sort of other emotional trauma thing that goes along with it. But
So
because
this
of,
is the first time you came just totally transparent and said, yes, you do have mental health. Because
well, I have
looking-
explained that. The thing is
And
that
you
I
were
don't
reading
have
the wrong-
schizophrenia.
It's hard to explain to somebody who makes their own assumptions without hearing you, and you have to repeat yourself every meeting, and every meeting, everything that you say goes in one ear and out the other. Like, this is insane.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were giving
but the thing
they
is,
were pinning, they were labeling you as something that you are not.
exactly. And
Misdiagnosis.
the main
But that's a crime. This is a crime that they committed. And that's the thing with the paperwork from TFCC that Shelly said that she was going to go over with me. Is that paperwork in my file? No, it's not. The only thing that was in the file they gave me, like I said, is my intakes. That's it. Now, Shelly wanted that paperwork, and in exchange for that paperwork, she was going to sit down with me and go over the paperwork with me because I needed to show her the crimes that were happening. Not that she cared. See, here's the thing. These people committed crimes against me before I went to jail, committed crimes against me while I was in jail, and continue to commit those crimes after I've been released from jail. This is not okay. There are multiple pieces of paper from people who have qualifications behind their name that state very clearly that I am not schizophrenic or delusional. Matter of fact, the DA had access to that. He was not happy about it. It doesn't fit his frame job.
your problem with that is that that's been so many people's excuses for not doing their job. Especially, you get to hear me complaining about the mandatory reporters all the time because I go to them, and then of course there's the mentally ill thing, and then when they realize that I'm not schizophrenic or delusional, then it's a whole, backtracking, trying to, we didn't make any
So
mistakes.
you know what? Here's the deal. You're not working with TSCC anymore, so they're out of the picture. That's not an issue.
It is an issue. She is literally blowing off the actual issue. All right, TFCC committed felonies against me knowingly and willingly, knowing that the things that they were claiming were delusions absolutely were not. Just like the people at CARE. They had that picture up for how long? They obviously knew I was not schizophrenic or delusional. They were aware that I was telling the truth, and yet here we are. Now, the situation with CARE and TFCC and the police all using the slander by TFCC to destroy my life. All right, this is my life. I am a human being. But these people don't treat me like a human being. They treat me like a paycheck. They treat me like a monster. They're not happy that I'm trying to turn them in, and by whatever means that it takes, you can obviously tell that I am doing my best to talk nicely to Miss Shelly in this. Through the whole thing, you can hear I am trying to talk nicely to her. And I am doing a great job, despite the fact that I want to scream in her face, do your job.
Since
I
you've
keep getting
been
told to
back,
go there.
I can legitimately say that you have been fully engaged. There's been no issues with you. You have been quite pleasant.
Exactly. Like, this is, what, 4 months after I was released? Yeah, I go in there and I'm pleasant. I make jokes. I try to cheer people up. You know, when I go in there, I try to be upbeat. Well, you know what? Here's the thing is that if you were just abused and you were forced to go in and be upbeat, that's pretty screwed up. Now, you can tell she says that I've been engaged. That's right, I have been, but she hasn't been. She didn't keep her word on any of the things that she said she was going to do.
You're willing to work with me. You know what I mean? All these things, and you've definitely made progress that meets the criteria.
What progress? What progress? I mean, by this point, we'd made no progress. Me and Russell made a lot of progress. And then we were cut off. This is a stall tactic. These guys know that they broke the law. And of course, she's going to admit that I've gone in there and I've been engaged and I've been pleasant. But the abuse is still happening. People still throw stuff at me. They still threaten me. They still assault me. Not that it matters. Not that any of these people actually care. They tell me to turn it in. I try to turn it in. I get blown over by the police. That's why we're supposed to have a fucking advocate. Jesus goddamn Christ.
It tells me, and now that you say that you are willing and you have that opportunity, well then, now it's time for me. You have shown me that you reached the level. I wouldn't get you out. I wouldn't get you out off the street.
Well, there's a lot of issues with that are backed up, going all the way back to the situation with Natalie, the situation
Well,
with
here's
my
the thing.
housing over
None of
there.
that matters, and I'm going to tell you why. So here's the deal. There is nothing that you have presented to me, and what I know for a fact, because I've seen it with my own two eyes, that can be held against you. We have people who have done horrible.
It's all held against me. I can't turn in the police because I'm forced to turn them into themselves. They don't care about the truth. Neither does Shelly. Obviously, I've been engaged in the situation the whole time. I've been going to these meetings, half an hour per week. They started setting those up because, well, like, you got to see those cards. At the very beginning, there was a lot of appointments missed. Those appointments that were missed, I didn't get cards for. So I started asking for a card every time I went in.
Horrendous crimes that they convicted and they get housed. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. And
So
that's
you
one of the
deserve
things-
housing as much as anybody else.
That's one of the things.
But she has to get on it. Here we're having a conversation. The same conversation that we have every single one of these. Every single one of these, I remind her again, we did this stuff.
Been a major issue through all of this as well is that a lot of these people who are doing horrible things, it's because they did horrible things that they're getting into these places. I'm not willing to do horrible things. Much of what I've been dealing with everywhere that I go is the housing. Like right here, for example, not necessarily care, but every service in Tillamook I've been going to since 2022. Every one of these places I was sent to over abuse. All these places are supposed to be mandatory reporters, and all of them wanted to do is the housing thing. I've filled out the housing paperwork since I've been back. Any piece of paper that you
I
guys
don't
give
want to
me, I'm
jump
going to
to
fill out.
housing though, Sean. on board, like I am an advocate for you, I will absolutely, you know, I would go to bat for you. I have gone to bat for you, and I will continue to go to bat for you.
Now, she says this stuff, but you got to hear Melissa. You got to hear Sean. Yeah, she didn't go to bat for me. She absolutely didn't. The thing is, if she was going to bat for me, she'd have tried to turn in this abuse, but she didn't. She says that she's going to help me with stuff other than housing. Well, she didn't even help me with the housing. We didn't even get anything done with the housing the whole time. And how many times can I offer to do this stuff while I'm being treated like I'm just now, this meeting, willing to try? And then the next meeting is, you're just now in this meeting willing to try. Well, the next conversation with Miss Shelly, you're going to get to listen to her blaming this all on Melissa. Melissa won't let me. Melissa won't let me. Melissa won't let me. Meanwhile, Shelly claims that she's a mandatory reporter, and these guys all want to do the, well, we sort of are and sort of, no, you either are or you are not. If you are a mandatory reporter, you are required by law to turn it in right away.
I'm living in a guy.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't control that other people, other agencies are not doing what's required.
But she can do her due diligence by turning it in. See, there's lots of evidence that Russell got to see, and very little that Shelly got to see. Because Shelly didn't show up. When she did show up, she talked over me with bullshit nonsense. She knows by this point that I filled out the paperwork. She was there when I was filling it out. I mean, come on now. Me and Russell talked to Shelly about them.
Yeah, but I can control what I do, and
One of the things about them being mandatory reporters, that anybody who's aware of the situation can turn it in. Now, you weren't exactly front and center
I should pause it. There's a truck going by and I can't hear squat.
for some of the situations like Shay was, but she got to see some of that stuff, got to interact with me at some measure while I was locked up. But what I'm having to deal with is people not understanding that this continues to affect me. Kind of like the housing situation in Nebraska. I shouldn't have had to break anything, but I did get kicked out of housing in Nebraska because I had to break things in order to get the attention of the police and the community, because I had community members doing there exactly the same things that I got to deal with here.
That's right. I had to try to turn in Leslie Snell's husband for implications of death threats against my life by his own brother. His own brother made those accusations. And he wasn't the only one who came to threaten me. Chris Kurth came to threaten me. I tried to turn them in, but the Dula County Sheriff's Department was too busy trying to hide the fact that they knew about the Natalie Bollinger situation, the abuse, the threats, before Natalie was killed. Almost a full year before Natalie was killed, they were well aware of the situation. But they wanted to talk over me and dismiss me and disrespect me and tell me they had real police work to do and tell me that I just needed to man up.
Still have to deal with Walnut. Now that I'm staying in the backyard in the tent, he knows where I've been staying. So I have to deal with Walnut going by and screaming stuff at the house. I have to deal with John Bosch's going by the house and screaming, honking his horn. Andrew Walnut's son, his friends, they all got big lifted pickup trucks. There's a Chevy S10 that drives by. There's a big old lifted GMC crew cab. There's also a big Chevy Silverado crew cab. And these guys wait till they drive by the house that I'm staying at, and then they rev up their vehicles as fast as possible. And this has been ongoing. It still isn't stopping. And I still can't go to the police about it because the police, they're invested in pretending I'm retarded and schizophrenic at the same time. And this is what their whole deal is that, like with most predators, I'm sure you've had to deal with the fact
They want to gaslight you. You told on them. How dare you? So they call you mentally ill. Say they're afraid for their lives. They're afraid that you might hurt them. Because you threatened to what? Did you threaten to hurt them? No, you threatened to turn them in. What did I try to do with these people? I tried to turn them in. Now, I've had to repeatedly deal with people who I tried to turn into the police, pretending that I threatened them and their families. Why? Because people who were predatory towards me, i.e. Natalie Bollinger, Maddie Boa, and Alicia Bollinger, wanted to slander my name in 2016 because they were embarrassed. And instead of investigating it, I was treated like a schizophrenic fucking retard. God bless America, right?
that, even in a family situation, if somebody wants to win an argument and you got PTSD, well, you're mentally ill. You're mentally ill. It's always used as an insult or to basically treat somebody like they're less than human. With the mentally ill tag, whether somebody's mentally ill or not, we have to focus on what's the mental illness they have. If they're not schizophrenic, but they do have Asperger's, well, then we need to pay attention to what somebody with Asperger's needs. Like, for example, when you were saying that you were making calls to try to find some sort of advocacy for me for that.
She's got no proof. And of course, who did she call? What kind of advocacy? I mean, she's given no information on any of this. She's claiming that she's done things with no proof of it. And of course, I got my file, right? There's no proof that she did anything in there either. The stuff that's in my file are my intake papers that I filled out. I filled them out.
Well, obviously, we haven't found anybody yet. I've made hundreds of phone calls since being here.
Also, they kept on saying they were going to do that in 2022 and 2023. They never tried. They never tried. They could make those phone calls with me, but they never tried.
Well, my hope was that I got closer for your individual needs.
See, so they won't do their job as a mandatory reporter because they're trying to find this obscure person who is going to be the end-all be-all and fix everything. They're going to fix everything with autism, and they're going to fix everything with mandatory reporter stuff. They're going to fix all this other stuff. No. I need a mandatory reporter to not be a lazy shit. If you're going to ignore the abuse that I'm going through and focus on housing, then actually focus on actual housing. If you're going to complain at me every single